Okay, so this video, everyone, we're still on 1.3. Now let's talk about this midpoint formula, okay? Midpoint formula, we just defined in the last video what a midpoint was, right? A point that divides a segment into two congruent segments. So that's really talking about segments. I want us really quickly to relate midpoint to average. So if I asked you to find the average of these two numbers, I don't know, 20 and 40, how would you find the average of those two numbers? What you're probably going to do, you're going to add them up, 20 plus 40, divided by 2, right? Cut them in half. You're going to get 60 over 2. 60 divided by 2 is 30. On a number line, notice if this was 20, 30, 40, well, here's your 20, here's your 40. That average is literally the midpoint, right? It's the middle of those two numbers. Why I'm showing you this, guys, is this concept, that formula, what you just did, is exactly the formula we use when we are finding the midpoint on a number line, okay? I pick 2 points, whatever those 2 points are, I add them together, divide them in half. That is really the average. That's the formula of midpoint, average of those two numbers. There's a difference though here. I have a midpoint on a number line, which is what average is normally. And then I have the midpoint on a coordinate plane. Check out the difference, okay guys? A midpoint on a number line, we're really talking about a straight line here, right? On a coordinate plane now, I'm not talking about a straight horizontal or vertical line. We're talking about diagonals, right? Any kind of slope, any type of line on a coordinate plane. Notice the formula here. You want to jot this down, remember it forever, make it on a flashcard. It's very similar, right? I'm still adding my x's, and I'm cutting them in half. I'm still finding the average. But what we need to do is I need to find the average of my x's and the average of my y's. Okay? Notice my midpoint is another point. It's an ordered pair. Check out the parentheses, right? It's another point. Okay, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, average of my x's, y1 plus y2 divided by 2, average of my y's. And it's another ordered pair. Make sure you jot that stuff down. That's good stuff right there. Let's do an example. All right, here's our first example. It says, what is the midpoint of RS, line segment RS, with endpoints? R is 5, negative 4, and S is 3, 6. So which formula am I going to use? This one on a number line or this one on a coordinate plane? Hopefully you're leaning towards this one right here, guys. I'm going to choose that one because I'm working with points, right? Notice these are points. Up here, we would just be working with numbers, like one number, whatever that number is, negative 6 and 1. Right here, I have solid points, and that's why we chose to use this formula, because I have two specific endpoints that are on the coordinate plane. So let's go ahead. It's really helpful, guys, to label x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter as long as the 1's stay together and the 2's stay together. So I'm going to throw the x1 with the 5, the y1 with the negative 4, x2 is 3, y2 is 6. Okay? And now all it comes to is plugging these numbers into my formula. I need to find the average of my x's. So I'm going to do 5 is my x1. Notice I put that with my x1 plus my x2, which is 3. Put that right into the formula. Average of my x's, comma, the average of my y's. I add my y1, negative 4, and I add to my 6, the y2. And now we're just simplifying this, right? 5 plus 3 gives me 8. Negative 4 plus 6 gives me 2. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. Here is my midpoint. Okay? There's my midpoint, guys. Notice it's a point, like it's an ordered pair. Parenthesis, comma, parenthesis. Okay, that's how we find midpoint. That's all it is. Something similar, but a different type of example. Notice how we called this endpoint, these endpoints. So if we look back into this visual, here's an endpoint, here's an endpoint. This is the midpoint. Okay, check out this one. The midpoint of AB has coordinates 4, 9. The midpoint is 4, negative 9. And the endpoint A has coordinates -3, -5. What are the coordinates of B? Okay, we can like draw like a little sketch here. I have no idea what this line segment looks like. I could just go A, the midpoint, B. What I know about it is the midpoint is 4, -9. That doesn't look like 4. Let's go here. 4, not that color. 4, -9 is my midpoint. A has coordinates -3, -5. So this gives you a nice visual. But I want to know B. We're going to use that midpoint formula. Again, this is the one I chose because I'm talking about full points, full ordered pairs, not just an X value. And I really want to think about what this is the formula for. What's that the formula for? Midpoint, right? And I know the midpoint. Those two things are related. x1 plus x2 divided by 2 is 4, right? Because these are the same. And then y1 plus y2 divided by 2 is -9. Right, guys? Because that is the midpoint. It tells me 4, -9 is the midpoint. Well, that's the formula I would use to find the midpoint. What other information did they give me? They gave me that A, which is usually my x1 and my y1, is -3, -5. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute those numbers into my formulas here. x1 is -3. I still don't know what my x2 is. Divided by 2 equals 4. My y1 is -5 plus y2 over 2 equals -9. Those are the two equations that we're going to need to solve to find my point B, my endpoint point B. So we're going to solve them. How do I solve to start this guy? When I have a fraction like this, do you guys remember? We have to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that fraction. That's my multiplication, right? Because then those 2's cancel and I'll be left with -3 plus x2 equals multiply 4 times 2 gives me 8. Add 3 to both sides. x2 is 12. Ooh, that's weird. x2 is 11. I can't add for a second. And we got to do the same thing with our y, right? Multiply both sides by 2. -5 plus y2 equals -18. I get that y2 alone by adding 5 to both sides. y2 equals -13. And there is my point, when I put these together, that represents the endpoint B, 11, -13. Okay? Seems like a lot of work, guys, but it's really, really not. Focus on making the connection that this point is this formula. That's what we were given. We were given that endpoint A was -3, -5. Substitute that into the formula for what we know. Okay? This was my video on midpoint, how to use the midpoint formula. Check out the next video for distance. Great job, guys.